what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy it.
I want to talk about Brian Thomas Jr.
Okay.
At 6'4", well over 200 pounds, going out there and with ease running a 4.33, T-Bob.
Yeah.
Like, Taylor and I, when we were talking about Combine maybe 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, and we're like, who's going to be the star? We both said Brian Thomas Jr. because I thought I thought like a 4.41. At his size, if he ran a 4.41, I'd be like, that dude was moving.
Yeah.
He went out there and ran a 4.33. He not only solidified himself to be a first-round pick, he's put himself into potentially, not saying it's going to happen because there's so many good receivers in this draft, I think he's a lock to be a top 20 pick.
Yeah. No, he
yeah,
go ahead.
The thing about this draft, and it happens every so often, is and this is air quotes here, we've known Caleb Williams is the best player in the draft. We've known Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best receiver. And we talk about that for so long that we allow ourselves to not only believe that that's the only truth, but we also allow ourselves to believe that nobody else can join them in that conversation. And that's one of the things I don't like about the draft. And I'm not just talking about here covering LSU. I'm talking about every show that we do. And there's guys in that conversation. Like, there's quarterbacks in that conversation. There's certainly receivers in that conversation. In fact, Marvin Harrison Jr., to me, would have to show me things at his pro day to make me believe that he's the number one receiver because I don't have him as a number one receiver right now. And there's some people like, hey, he could show up tomorrow, not run, not do a medical. He's a number one receiver. And I ask him every single time, tell me why. Tell me why. And then it's just silent.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's a very, very good player.
This receiver, good route runner. If you never know what to say, just be like,
good
runs great routes, dude.
This receiver class, now
separation.
You got to go out there and do it, T. But it is setting up to be one of the best that we've ever seen. And you got people like Brian Thomas that had 1,100 yards, 17 touchdowns, running a 4.33. You have Xavier Worthy running a 4.2. Was it 4.22?
No, it got
4.21.
Got
knocked down to 4.21.
Yes,
he broke the record. That's right.
The record. He broke Justin Ross.
And it's not like he's like, oh, that guy could really run. He had like 400 yards receiving this year. He's a speed guy. Xavier Worthy had 75 catches for over 1,000 yards and 5 scores this year.
Al Davis, I heard that like you could hear Al Davis yelling. Drafted. From beyond the grave, he was trying to punch through the earth and come and throttle the Raiders and make. But I do think Worthy's more worthy of a draft pick than like obviously like a Derrick Hayward Bay back in the day. To your point.
Yes. Now he's not going to be one of the first 4 receivers, but this isn't just a speed guy. This is a guy that is probably going to be the 5th or 6th receiver taken. And he's got these kind of stats with that kind of 40 time, and so it is set up to be an absolute all-timer.
Here's the deal on Brian Thomas Jr., a little context for you, and this comes from Austin Abbott. But a lot of people have this, though.
This is what I think it's going to be. The Saints are in play here.
Yeah, so, again, if you've heard of relative athletic score, you have probably heard it mentioned sarcastically or tongue-in-cheek if you're listening to Louisiana-based Saints content. And the reason is the Saints are a bit obsessed with RAS, right? It's a great metric for quantifying a person's athleticism in comparison to their peers. Now, the problem is the Saints have gone a bit crazy, and it was one of the key factors citing in a drafting of, a Peyton Turner, a Marcus Davenport. And so it's caused a lot of people to completely turn on it. Don't blame RAS, though, for the Saints' bad decisions, That's my point. Like,
Saints, just match it with actual production on tape.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
Like, RAS has value, and it is cool. So how about this? Brian Thomas Jr. scored a 9.97 out of 10. But here's the amazing part. From 1987 to 2024, there's been 3,063 receivers evaluated at the Combine. We're talking nearly 40 years. Out of those 3,063, Brian Thomas ranks 10th in terms of athleticism. So the most athletic position in arguably all of sports, but definitely all of football, just from a raw number standpoint, wide receiver. I mean, go look at the 40 times from this week. So the most athletic position in all of football, and he ranks 10th out of the last 40 years at over 3,000 receivers with a 4.33 40, the 38.5-inch verge, and he also led the country in touchdown catches and yards. Yeah. It's it boggles the mind. So Brian Thomas Jr., a massive winner over the weekend.
I think he's fully put himself in a position that if the Saints selected him at 14, that is completely justified.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
and if you're all in on Derek Carr, dude,
there's no question about it. And you're going to lose Mike Thomas. That's what everyone thinks. I mean, Nick told us that on last Tuesday. If you lose him, you still have a Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. But as much as I like Rashid Shaheed, I mean, he is somebody that he's your main returner as well. So the likelihood of injury goes up for a player like that. And he's a nice piece, right? If you're out there and your X and Z are Brian Thomas, right, and Chris Olave.
Yeah.
And then you got Shaheed as whatever you want him to be within the offense, and we know the 49ers like to use multiple weapons, and you're bringing somebody in from the 49ers to call your plays in QB. Like, sign me up for that if I'm a Saints fan.
Yeah, it's tough not to feel a bit tantalized by the potential there just from a purely overwhelming offensive standpoint. Last thing on Brian Thomas as well, he hit – I believe, was it 22.9 or 23.9
I know he was the fastest on the field.
During the route running portion, and it was a full mile per hour faster than anybody else, than any other receiver there. So, yes, like Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, there were so many great times and performances, but when it came to the actual running of the routes, no one was field speed faster than Brian Thomas Jr. So maybe nobody, there's a bunch of winners from the weekend, but Brian Thomas as much of a winner as anybody else at the NFL Combine.
Wow, Jake, what incredible takes. I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.